Hello, and welcome to STEM Challenge, The World Within, Chapter 15, our last chapter in the course. And in Chapter 15, we would like to take a look at a couple really important issues. First of all, in Chapter 15, we're just going to look at three sections. We'd like to look at Section 15.1, Community Interactions. We'd like you to read that and understand that, and there'll be some questions on the quiz on that. You don't have to read, nor are you responsible for the work in 15.2 and 15.3. But two of the biggest problems our life faces on our planet is something called the biodiversity crisis and, of course, climate change. And we're going to address both of those in some detail in this last chapter of the course. We'd like to make you aware of some organizations that are working to help solve this and some of the things that you can do and organizations that you can support to help bring about meaningful change in the future. In 15.4, we're going to look at the biodiversity crisis. First, we're going to define what it is. We're going to look at some concepts called economic benefits, but also another concept called ecosystem services of biodiversity. We're going to look at that, and we're going to relate human actions to the sixth mass extinction, something that we're going through right now, biologists tell us. So what does the term biodiversity refer to? Well, it refers to the variety, the diversity of life and its processes, including the variety of living organisms and the genetic differences among them and the communities and ecosystems in which they occur. At this point in time, 2020, scientists have identified a little more than 1.9 million species alive today. Their best estimate of how many really exist on our planet, it ranges anywhere from 5 to 30 million. Just an amazing diversity of life. A study that was released in 2011 estimates that the Earth has 8.8 million animal, plant, and fungi species. But new species are being discovered all the time, and some of these have incredible potential benefits for human beings. So let's take a look at this pie chart from your textbook. This is the known 1.8 million species of life on this planet. And about 75% of them, as we can see here, are animals, plants, fungi, protists. So most of them are animals. And as we'll see in a second, most of those animals are insects. So what they've done now is they've turned the animal section of the previous pie chart into a pie chart on just the animals. And take a look at the purple section of this. The entire purple section is dedicated to insects, and insects, along with all the other invertebrates, crustaceans, sponges, flatworms, make up a vast majority of the animals. If we take a look at animals like us, vertebrates that have a backbone in them, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals, they only make up these tiny slices over here, all the species. And of the vertebrates, the fish are by far the most successful species. Close to 22,000 species of fish are known in the world today. How about us, Homo sapiens? Only one species of humans exists to this day. Did we have others? Yes, we had others over the last 5 to 6 million years, but they've all gone extinct. Let's take a look at plants. So they've broken out all the plants into a pie chart, and one of the things we mentioned earlier in chapter 13, we said how successful flowering plants have been on our planet. And take a look at that. That's close to 75% of all the plants that are around today are flowering plants. Notice we have a continuation, flowering plants that are monocots and dicots, but also this sliver of mosses, ferns, and conifers. Not a lot of species of conifers. Evergreens, sometimes we call them. So why should you care about biodiversity? Why is it so important in the first place? Well, one thing, if we look at this selfishly, is human beings benefit in many ways from biodiversity. It has direct economic benefits and provides services to entire ecosystems. Let's take a look at some of those benefits. One is that wild plants and animals maintain a valuable pool of genetic variation. Very, very important. As we grow more and more crops, which are very similar genetically, we need that genetic variation around in case a virus or bacteria creates a disease that goes after one type of our food. Very, very important. As it says, this is important because domestic species are genetically uniform, and this puts them at great risk of dying out due to disease. Other organisms provide humans with many different products like timber, fibers, adhesive rubbers. Certain species warn us of toxin in the environment. And more than half of the most important prescription drugs come from wild species. Only a fraction have been studied for the medical potential. That's happening all the time. And other living things provide inspiration for engineering and technology. This is a really important page in your text and something I want you to pay close attention to, and that's ecosystem services of biodiversity. So biodiversity generally increases the productivity and stability of ecosystems. It helps ensure that at least some of the species will survive environmental change. It also provides many other services. For example, plants and algae maintain the atmosphere. During photosynthesis, they add oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. Remember that phrase, carbon dioxide. We want to get more of that out of our atmosphere. Plants help prevent soil erosion. They also improve soil quality when they decompose. And microorganisms, plants, bacteria, fungi, they purify water in rivers and lakes, and they also return the nutrients to the soil. Bacteria fixing nitrogen make it available to plants so that plants can grow. Insects and birds pollinate flowers, increasing plant yields. And natural predators control insect pests. These are just some of the things. There are many, many other ecosystem services that a healthy biodiversity of an ecosystem provides for us and for that ecosystem. So this is an idea that maybe you haven't heard of before, but over 99% of all the species that have ever lived on Earth have gone extinct. We know from the fossil record that 5 mass extinctions are recorded there. We can see them. We can see one of the most famous is when the dinosaurs became extinct. And there were major geologic and climatic events. Well, right now, evidence shows that there's a 6th mass extinction occurring, and it's due primarily to human actions. Some scientists consider this to have begun when early hominids during the Pleistocene. They are blamed on overkilling the big mammals such as mammoth. Other scientists will argue that it happened a little closer to our present time. Don't worry about that. The important thing is right now, we're losing lots of plants and animals in another mass extinction, and one of the things we have to do is save habitat. Incredibly important. So what's causing the extinction right now? Well, the biggest single cause is habitat loss, whether it comes from agriculture, forestry, mining, or urbanization. Lots and lots of land is being lost. And when animals and plants lose their habitat, they're going to go extinct. Other causes for extinction are exotic species that are introduced into new habitats. These are called invasive species. There's overharvesting of fish and trees and other organisms. The overharvesting of fish in the ocean is a major, major problem. Climate change, which we'll talk about in the last section of our course, is largely due to burning fossil fuels. And we're working right now to try and get off our dependence on fossil fuels. It's raising the air and ocean temperatures. It's also raising the sea levels. Just general pollution, which adds chemical heat and noise to the environment, also affects extinction. And our own human overpopulation. Right now, human beings, over 7 billion people on the earth. Most people that study, biologists that study overpopulation of humans say that with the education of women and with decreasing food insecurity for most of the planet, we should level off at 9 billion people, and that will be the carrying capacity for the earth as far as humans are concerned. But we have to stop taking away habitat, and we have to start living in more cities or close to cities and keep the open spaces that we have. It's one of the issues right now that would be really helpful. So what can you do to help? There are many steps that you can do. One is consume wisely. Reduce your consumption wherever possible. Reuse things. Buy used books or recycle rather than throw out and buy new. Avoid plastics when possible. Go organic. Organically grown food is better for your health. It also protects us from pesticides and excessive nutrients. We talked about excessive nutrients before in the course. Save energy. Don't live in a huge house. Try and buy a car that will be 4-cylinder and will not chew up as much gasoline. Turn off your lights when they're not in use. Use mass transit. All of these things will help protect habitat and increase biodiversity. Kim Preshoff is an expert in biodiversity, and this animation from TED Ed is a wonderful explanation on why biodiversity is so important. Please listen to this. I have it linked in the presentation. I'll also, at the very end of the screencast, I'll also put a link there on YouTube. So take a look at this, make sure that you understand it. There's also a wonderful website called the Encyclopedia of Life, which is putting online brief profiles of every form of life that we've found. You may want to investigate that if you just Google the Encyclopedia of Life. That'll be the first one that comes up. So take a look at the lesson summary that we've just gone over, and make sure that you listen to that animation right here. Why is biodiversity so important?